Hello and welcome back to VGC, the video game podcast with our reactions to the Xbox Game Showcase 2026. We got Persona, and boys, console wars are back. I'm here with Alex Donaldson and Timur Hussein. Before we get into that, remember patreon.com/videogameschronicle. If you join at the Insider tier or above, you'll get a game from Kepler. It could be Claire Obscure. Tam, thank you for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being in the busiest hotel room in the world, where about 50 of us were watching this together. But those mugs have left. They're going to see some of this Xbox nonsense. Top line thoughts on the show?
I think the main thing that we're probably going to be talking about is like the weirdness around exclusivity and the kind of odd position that they've put themselves in. Like, it feels like a Microsoft of two eras, like fighting each other now.
Nothing stranger than making a big hoopla about Gears of War being exclusive and immediately following it up with a trailer for a PlayStation Halo game. Alex, your thoughts?
I was surprised we got two exclusives, because we got Clockwork Revolution as well. But it is as clear as mud, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the thing I keep thinking is they should have two organisations.
Yeah.
So almost like have two publishers. Maybe you take one of the publishers you've bought. So maybe you say, Xbox Game Studios games published are going to be the exclusive games, and Activision is going to publish all the other stuff. But then again, if you're only doing one exclusive a year,
well, that's the thing.
then you don't need a publishing operation that's separate for that.
Also, the marketability of that goes down when it's like Activision is publishing a exclusive for Xbox. I feel like if Xbox says we're publishing an Xbox exclusive, it's got a tiny bit more weight.
If you're an Xbox, if you're looking at a game and it's from Xbox now, it could be exclusive, it could not. It's this weird dice roll. To some extent, it seems like it was relatively last minute.
Yeah.
In the sense that there were really weird things going on, like retailers putting live like pre-order listings for Gears on PlayStation, complete with like the pack shot and everything.
Well, Grubb said it's done, right? Like Jeff Grubb said it is done and ready to roll, and they pulled it last minute.
So here's the situation. If you haven't watched this and you're not aware about what's all kicking off, Gears of War E-Day, which was originally planned for PlayStation 5, is now an Xbox console exclusive in perpetuity, allegedly. It's not a timed exclusive.
Let's read the quote.
Let's get the statement. I've got Microsoft representative Alex Donaldson here with a quote.
So they say, as part of our focus on the return of Xbox, we also announced that Gears of War E-Day and Clockwork Revolution will be Xbox console exclusives. These are not timed exclusives, so that's explicit. Games already announced for multi-platform releases will stick to that plan, and we're committed to investing in growing Xbox both on console and beyond. So what they're saying is, they want to have their cake and eat it. They're committed to having more exclusives, and they're committed to releasing a load of their games on everything. Which is why I'm saying it's confusing, because if you look at it, if I'm in the market to buy an Xbox, 15 years ago, you'd look at the list of Xbox exclusives. You'd look at the list of games that Xbox publishes and go, well, I know I'm going to get all those games. Halos, Fables, Gears, Fusion Frenzy, whatever.
Shout out.
And now you look, and some of them are okay, and some of them aren't.
I think someone's knocking at the door. You continue.
Are we getting a special guest? But yeah, so anyway, some of those you're looking and it tells you nothing, which is why I'm saying maybe you separate it.
Yeah.
Okay, you can come back later. Thank you.
I come back?
Yes.
It's room service.
Cheers, thank you.
Get her in. Find out what she thinks.
Yeah, what do you think about Xbox exclusives?
She thought it's actually the messaging behind it actually doesn't really work in a situation where you've got a Halo game.
She's here. She's like, I'm here to clean up Xbox. Come back later, please.
Yeah, it's a mess. Something someone said to me the other day, and I think it's interesting, is the idea that a lot of this, in the grand scheme, doesn't actually matter that much.
Yeah.
They were like, the exclusive stuff with a broad audience isn't actually cutting through that much. And they were like, but the interesting thing is, one thing that did cut, that they felt had cut through with a broader audience was like, when, was it Seamus Blackley who did the Ashes there to usher Xbox into the cold embrace of death? That quote went everywhere, and it's like that quote cuts through in a way that all this shouting that's currently going on social media, there's a fascinating curve through that conference, right, of Xbox fans being really happy and then really angry when the Halo trailer came, and then really happy again with Clockwork.
Like, Halo's out in July. Do you think that's just a case of that being, it was too late to make the pivot on that one?
Yeah, I imagine there's some element of marketing dollars being already sunk into it ahead of time.
They had that Donnie wearing the PlayStation T-shirt at that Halo event.
I mean, like for all we know, there's like a million Pepsi cans with a Halo key art and a PlayStation logo out there that they're just like, oh, we cannot undo this. Yeah. So I mean, it could be that, or it could just be like we were talking about this earlier. Maybe they want both of those scenarios to see what happens, get some data, and then from there make a more kind of concrete decision on what lane they should be in.
We're getting into conspiracy theory territory here, but when this started to break on the ground here earlier this week and people were talking about it in hush whispers, there was a theory rolling around that Gears is essentially going to be a sacrificial lamb. So when that sells significantly less than they wanted, they have a justification to put everything on everything. I think that gets thrown into slightly different relief with Clockwork being an exclusive, a game that already wasn't a mass market appealer. So not having that on PlayStation feels like it kind of cuts the legs out from under them. But
I think there's clearly they're looking and they've made these decisions for games where the impact is going to potentially be less. So you look at Gears is really popular, beloved, but it's also most popular in the US specifically, in the US market, where Xbox is decently strong. So it's not like they're losing loads of European Gears PlayStation sales because the series hasn't typically been that big in Europe. And you look at Clockwork and it's a relatively niche-y proposition, and actually probably a game, like everything in Exile makes really, where the vast majority of its market's going to be on PC anyway.
Yeah, true.
I'm trying to find out if when they announced Gears E-Day, by the way, they explicitly said it was for PlayStation.
Or was this a case of when that Reloaded came out, they were like, in the future of the franchise will be on PlayStation, or is this people putting the cart before the horse? Because in my mind, it had already been announced as a PlayStation game, but perhaps that's...
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I thought they explicitly said it's coming. And there was like no room for interpretation there.
We'll find that out. Tam, interesting... Fable shown with a new trailer for Haley Atwell, and they didn't go either way on that one. I'm pretty sure there wasn't any even logos at the end of that.
No.
That was just a situation where it was a trailer, and we'll see you in February.
Yeah, I do wonder what happens. To what extent the outcome of Gears and Halo is going to dictate Fable, and I don't know. Like, I feel like Fable is one of those games where you kind of need it to be an exclusive.
I mean,
like, for identity preservation at the very least.
Yes. See, to be fair, I think that argument flies out the window as soon as you do. As soon as you can control Master Chief with a PS5 controller, it's done. Like,
I don't know. The thing I'd say is that press release is very clear. They're like explicit that they're committed to the existing announced. So it's like Fable is announced for PlayStation. They're going to release that on PlayStation. Halo is announced. I think the interesting thing is, like, Halo Campaign Evolved is like them trying to get back on the saddle in terms of, you know, they've had a bit of a wobble with that series. And they're getting back on the saddle by rebuilding the campaign and building a few new campaign missions, which feels very much like a training exercise. By the way, I think it looks absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
The question is, obviously, the thing that follows that then is a multiplayer experience and a more traditional Halo game. And my question is not Halo's going to ship on PlayStation. It's, will they then do the next one on PlayStation, or will they rug pull the people who got into Halo on PlayStation?
I think there will be content for Campaign Evolved that will be Xbox exclusive, and I bet it gets revealed fairly quickly after. Like, as the kind of hype around Campaign Evolved starts dying down, I think that's where they start doing the pivot to be like, I think that's kind of the purpose, like, get people hooked and then tell them they can only get it here.
That's what I think is a play, for sure. It's like, because you've become a huge fan of this thing, and then whoops, you know.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, very quickly we get a Halo 2 Campaign Evolved, like, type thing, or finish the fight, or whatever it may be, and that's the Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
So having looked it up, it looks like in 2024 when they revealed E-Day, they just did not say.
Oh, interesting.
So I think that's one of the things that paints it differently. And Clockwork Revolution, I imagine, is the same. So, because you're not actually technically breaking a promise then.
So what they said, we're committed to multi-platform stuff for the future. What does that actually mean games-wise for what they've announced, though? Because Call of Duty was never in the conversation, because that's a
I don't think that
totally
will ever.
separate
Well,
thing.
that can't.
Yeah.
That legally can't.
Like
'cause
the
they
only
made a
thing,
commitment.
the only thing was Halo, was it not? Like Forza's the other one
Yeah.
that says coming to
Flight
PS5.
sim as
But
well.
they've said that. So
Yeah.
you've got these that list of guarantees.
Also, considering how Forza sells on PlayStation 5, I think it would be an astonishing act of self-harm to not keep
But
that
this
going.
is why I think it's. Well, I guess this is the thing, right? It's short-term pain for long-term gain. And like for instance, the Gears decision, they've probably lost about 1 million players, probably. Now, some of those people maybe will be in a position to pick it up on PC instead. Maybe there'll be one or two nutters who actually go and buy an Xbox for it. But
that new green Xbox.
That green one, yeah.
But they've lost roughly 1 million players, and obviously they will have had the conversation. Matt Booty, Asher, they will have probably, Satya Nadella, the CEO, probably will have been briefed on it, and it will have literally been the conversation of, we want to do this to send a message about our brand, and the cost of this will be X. Is X actually worth? Is the message that we want to get across worth X? And I think they'll be having that conversation with every game going forward. But why I think it's just that I can't get over this thing that it's so unclear. An Xbox game could be on Xbox alone, could be on Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah.
It just feels weird to me.
Well, I think it's a product of the uncertainty and the lack of confidence that Xbox has had for a long time now. Like, they have to go through these growing pains where they don't commit to anything either way, because that company doesn't have a good grasp of what its strengths and weaknesses are currently. So they have to kind of look like mugs for a little bit so that at least they can look down on and look at hard evidence and stats to be like, okay, we have done the work, we suffered through it, but we have clear data saying this is what our audience responds to, this is the monetary fallout of it or the ripple effect, so this is our strategy. Question is like how much damage they do in that process, because you could end up like, by the time they reach the kind of like concluding paragraph of that kind of exploration, it could be in a Dreamcast situation where, for we know, where it's like, oh shit, it's just done, man. Not quite as severe, but obviously, you know what I mean.
But the question is how much, on that topic really, the ultimate question is how much money are Microsoft willing to burn in search of whatever their goal is with Xbox? And what is that goal? I said before, when Asher first joined, I was like, if I was her, if the goal is to make Xbox viable, I would be making the argument that was made back in 2000. And the argument was they were concerned that Sony was going to control the living room. And they viewed the Xbox as a Trojan horse to get Windows into living rooms. And so Microsoft burned huge stacks of money in order to make inroads into that market. So maybe the argument is, well, the reason we want the console business is because people have Gemini and Siri on their phones and on their desktops and stuff like that, but on their TV screens through Samsung Smart TV and stuff like that. Microsoft's AI offering does not really have a living room implementation. They don't really have an Alexa implementation. Maybe the argument becomes, because they're all in on AI, well, the console is our Trojan horse to get. We want people to play games. We want people to buy games, yes, but also we want people to go, hey,
Copilot.
Copilot. I was going to say Cortana. Hey, Copilot, can you order me a Domino's pizza large or whatever? And it does it, and that's part of we're back to the Xbox on, Xbox off stuff. But maybe that's the Trojan horse. And how much money are they willing to spend to get to that? Because Microsoft have done this before. Like I say, the Xbox took ages to get to any sense of profitability. It was the middle of the 360 gen before they were profitable.
Yeah, but at the same time, like the path to that profitability required their competitors to make some quite severe mistakes, which is much harder to do these days. I mean, like, that's not to say like Sony couldn't biff some part of their business that allows Microsoft just enough of an edge to kind of like get some of that market back, but it feels like a much, much more unlikely prospect these days.
One thing I'd say about that though is, I think Sony's doing fine.
Yeah.
But I think if you're in a world where Microsoft has not had the generation they've had, Sony looks a lot worse, actually. Yeah. They sort of have looked good because the competition has looked so poor.
And that's the thing, they've had a down gen, but they don't have down gens in a row. Like they always swing back with a much better one. And now that like the word on the ground and very much what Herman Hulst is saying to people is like, we are refocusing on the Sony games. We're refocusing on what makes this platform. I can understand why Xbox are making like they have to do something. Like if this was still the Phil regime, that this show would have been very different, a very submissive, here is all our games kind of situation. I think now I don't know how much, and we've talked about how Asha Sharma's taking a lot of like influence and advice from corners of the audience that she really shouldn't be. Whether or not, I had a theory that those decisions had already been made, and she was like seeking out tweets that suggested that, so she could be like, "We're listening."
I don't know.
It's all happening very fast.
Yes,
is the reason why. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, even like I say, this looked like it was super quick.
That thing, her thing at the end was tacked on last minute, no doubt.
What I would say is the interesting and slightly sad thing is they just had a really good showcase.
Yeah,
loads of games that look really good. I think Gears looks tremendous. Halo looks brilliant. I think what they're doing with what is clearly the beginning of the end of like regular updates for Sea of Thieves, where the players are more tools for the players to create stuff. It's really cool. I think Clockwork Revolution looks absolutely
brilliant.
Excellent. The new Spyro looks super cool. Very smart, very wise for that to be on Switch too. So there's loads to talk about here to love. But actually, the Gears multi-platform thing, as far as the hardcore game audience does, planted a bomb under all that. And the only thing that anyone is going to be discussing is that.
That's a major issue that I think Xbox has, because like you said earlier, like you could argue that Sony's not in a particularly strong position, but what you can say is like the messes they make aren't as obvious to people outside of a very, dedicated niche audience.
Yeah.
Whereas Xbox, you kind of come to it and it's very confusing to even most people who aren't day to day paying attention. And like almost that means that Sony has a better opportunity to kind of course correct, because they're just steering a little go-kart, whereas Xbox has to like steer an entire ship in multiple directions to see which way the wind is putting up the least resistance, if you know what I mean. It's just it's a quagmire of their own making that now they have to suffer through, unfortunately.
It all needs to be clearer. And let's be clear, right? They've just had the announcement. Really, all we got was a few sentences from Asher, a few sentences from Matt at the end on the same topic, and a single line in a press release. I'm sure we're going to have, over the next few days, a number of interviews. Matt Ball, who is come in as a really important strategy guy for Microsoft just recently, is going to be at Dringo's show tomorrow, so we'll see what gets said there, if anything. So they've got chances to sort of get the message across a little bit better.
Here's my question for you, Alex. I think the big roadblock for this is what happens when they start talking about Elder Scrolls 6, because that is going to be one that seems like destined to be a multi-format game, and it seems like maybe they do one per year that is the console exclusive. They've got Gears this year, they've got Clockwork Rev the next year, they can put something else out the following year. But to me, a new Elder Scrolls is like a Call of Duty level event that has to be on everything.
Well, it doesn't have to be, because look at Starfield. That was potentially they thought before they released that was going to be an Elder Scrolls level event. It wasn't in the end. Still an alright game. But but at the end of the day, I think you've got to. It comes back to what I said. How much money are they willing to lose, and what is the goal? Because if the goal is actually to stand the Xbox console business back up and be a serious rival in hardware to Sony, then actually you have to be willing to potentially lose millions and millions on a game like Fallout or Elder Scrolls or what have you. You can't do Call of Duty legally now, but you have to be willing to lose on a game like that.
Yeah.
And if that's not the goal, and all you're really doing is putting games that have less multi-format potential as exclusives, sort of, so you're able to say that you still have exclusives, what are we doing?
What if you run it like this? So they're doing the Fallout 3 remaster at the minute. That's a multi-format game, and then they do things like remasters and little drips and drabs of the franchise, but if you want the new one from this franchise, you have to get our box or you have to have a PC.
that would be the sort of thing, the sort of aggressive response. But again, that requires you can't put the genie back in the bottle of once corporate has seen how much money you can make shipping Forza Horizon 5. Once you see how many millions of copies that sells on PlayStation, it's very, very difficult to justify not shipping that on PlayStation next time round, because you go, we're going to be 5-6 million sales down. That's an enormous amount of revenue. Revenue and as a large company like a Microsoft, you can have those situations where you're willing to give up the revenue, but it has to be in search of a grander mission. Like, it has to be in search of, we're going to do this, and as a result of doing this, we're going to sell X million consoles over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, enough strategy talk. Let's talk games. Kicked off with Gears of War E-Day, which I don't know if you've heard. It's only coming to Xbox. But I thought that was a good way to show it. Big chunk of gameplay. It looked really nice. I think Gears is in a weird situation as a franchise and as a single player experience, where Gears made sense when the first trilogy happened, but now as an experience, I don't know. The past couple of games have been pretty good. Some of the parts of those games have been actually great, but they didn't seem to garner the same type of response. And I think Gears as a franchise is kind of in the same wilderness that Halo is, where it's like people remember Gears as this main thing, much like Halo, but they remember the first trilogy. They don't remember the kind of ancillary games. So, Tam, for you, does this have to be a massive return to form? Does it have to come out and be like, this is an essential single player campaign and a good multiplayer?
I don't think it'll ever reach the same heights that the original trilogy did. Certainly Gears 1 and 2, because those were kind of like leading the charge on kind of establishing Xbox of a certain generation in a market where, competitive console versus console performance was important. Like now it's just not trying to do that, and people don't really want that, so it's not going to get there. I think it does need, the question is like, does Gears really have like a long-term franchise potential? And I'm not 100% sure about that anymore. I think E-Day will no doubt be a good game. They've all been good games, but the thing that's changed is just interest level has kind of changed. It's not like, it's the same with Halo, right? Like all those games are fine, but people just don't care about the franchises as much as they used to. And I think that's a difficult pill to swallow if you're Microsoft. And kind of like, Sony has kind of pivoted away from the franchises that truly made them the things that they were. I was just
going to make this exact point. Like, Uncharted, obviously I know Uncharted is coming, like it's on the way, but they left Uncharted at its peak and didn't do a new one for a very long time, whereas Microsoft maintained with the franchises that they didn't establish new ones, or they tried to get them going and they ended up getting cancelled, like Perfect Dark and all this other stuff. So
and the existing IPs, instead of like what Sony did was smart, was like, we probably don't know where to go with this now. The team that were making it is now off doing their other thing. They don't want to touch it. So instead of like trying multiple games to try and figure out what is this now and kind of like tanking the reputation and the prestige around it, they just were like, all right, we'll leave it. And the best case scenario for that is it's left long enough that even if you don't change it, the nostalgia will boost it when it comes back.
And now they're coming back with a story that is like a natural time progression. They're doing something that means that when they announce it and they do people get excited about it. But they let Naughty Dog go and do a thing that has become a cultural juggernaut for them. It's become their big TV push, whereas Uncharted was a very popular trilogy of games and a middling film, but they didn't run it into the ground or give it to another series, another team rather.
I think there's a broader AAA problem. I don't think it's specific to Gears or Microsoft or anything, in that just part of the problem is the fans of these games are now in their 30s.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, in terms of finding growth, you don't, because there's still loads of gamers in their 30s. Most of the people watching this. But people do, a subset of people ages out of it. There's a lot of people who were buying Gears from Game or whatever back in the day, and they were at uni and playing hundreds of hours of multiplayer, who just aren't playing games anymore, or aren't playing as many games anymore, who will buy GTA and maybe buy FIFA, but have sort of zoned out of that area of games. And maybe a percentage of those goes, I used to love Gears back in the day, I'll pick up a new Gears. But on the whole, in AAA, the question is, if you want growth, you've got to sell that game to kids. I don't know how that you get that Gears to cut through with kids. I don't know how you get that Halo to cut through with kids.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get Uncharted to cut through with kids. I think there's things that you can do in these franchises with new characters, younger characters, things like that, moving stuff on. But yeah, for me, it's a broader problem in games, and it's, you know, this is the problem that Final Fantasy has, you know, and they really struggled to get cut through with young people. So they pressed the emergency panic button and made the remake of the game that all the old people wanted them to make a remake of. And although those games have sold well and have made their money back, the number of those old fans who actually showed up with their money is way lower than like I would have thought it would have been.
Yeah, I think the issue they have is the reality of the situation is if you want that new audience to exist, you have to give them things, franchises, IPs that they feel belong to them. And the issue that Xbox has is they've got a bunch of franchises that modern audiences, they look at and it's like, this is not my franchise. This is my dad's franchise. So you know what I mean? And like, maybe I'll check it out, but there's no sort of allegiance to it. Whereas the impression of those franchises from the Microsoft side is like, these are juggernauts. They're always popular. They have brand recognition. It's not a Nike. It's like a Slazenger. Like you know
Kappa.
what I mean?
Well, it's
Kappa,
like if Guerrilla was still making Killzone, right?
Yeah.
And what they did is they made Horizon, and if you're 20, Horizon is important to you in the way that Killzone may have been important to you.
Exactly.
If you're 30.
You need the franchises that come to that audience at a certain time in their life and impressionable when they're paying attention. They're like trying to figure out who they are, what defines their taste, and do something that grabs them. And then you can carry on with more entries in that franchise going forward. But if you keep bringing out Gears, you also have to convince them of why this was important, and they should pay attention to it. Yeah. Which and as we all know, you can't tell kids what to do, man.
It's not had the time to rest. Like when this Infamous stuff came back up recently, there was a group of people who were like 13 when those first Infamous games came out that were like, I'm absolutely ready for this to come back, because it has had a time of complete silence since like the early PS4 generation. Whereas what does Microsoft have that they can drop back in that has got that kind of hearts and minds moment?
Cameo, elements of power.
It's been a long time since the last Gears, right? Because that's sort of, when you say that about Infamous, I think that's probably a relatively vocal minority.
Yeah, for sure.
That wasn't one of those. That wasn't one of the important Sony IPs.
So
Uncharted is a different.
This is the thing. I was shocked by how much that got picked up, because I was like, no one liked Infamous.
Yeah, I loved Infamous.
I love Infamous.
That's what I mean. It's those people are going to go apeshit. Of course they are, but I'm not. I think there's a broader problem, and I do think where Microsoft missed the trick, it's that Xbox One generation where it all went wrong. They just needed a couple of new IPs in that gen to sort of break up the Gears, Halo. You know, we didn't get a Fable that gen, and that's actually probably why Fable is their most exciting.
That's
game.
exactly yeah.
I'm really excited I'm really excited for Fable because it has been so long, and it is a reboot. So this could be a Fable that is for Square Enix decided to bring Final Fantasy up again, but Square Enix...
Do you like Final Fantasy?
Sometimes. They were quite successful with 15, and they had that whole marketing campaign where it was even the splash screen when you first loaded the game said, a Final Fantasy for fans and first-timers.
Yeah.
And that's their best-selling one since 7, and it was the only one that cut through in that way of they successfully went, well, if you are old and your back's going and you loved 7 back in the day, you'll probably still like this. We've got a lot of the things you liked. And if you're young, come on, welcome in.
Yeah.
And so few franchises are good at doing that.
The other thing with the Infamous thing that I think is really fascinating is, yes, it's a vocal minority, and yes, there's a bunch of people who perhaps kind of know that franchise, but what does the legwork for that is that team went on to create a series much bigger than anything. So like Infamous, if you put out Infamous 3, people might shrug at it, but if you put out from the makers of Ghost of Tsushima, Infamous 3, that is where people go, oh, okay, or just Infamous. It's not going to have a number on it, for sure. And especially at a time when Sony is undoubtedly the kind of leader on superhero games. I'm sure that Insomniac are going to carry on making superhero games, but if they want to double down, like you take a franchise like Infamous and give it that kind of like, we make superhero games in the same way that all of their games are basically God of War in a different way. Like they've got the ability to do that. So yeah, I think the Infamous stuff is really trading on the back of what Sucker Punch has done in the time since, which I think is pretty smart, to be honest.
Gears of War October 6th. Next I wanted to talk about Spyro the Dragon's back. He's got a big quiff now. He's got big fuzzy eyebrows. They showed a little bit of this.
I'm really upset that they didn't make him like older and like more ragged and like
Didn't
bigger.
they do one where he was like teenage Spyro and he was a bit more gritty?
Are you thinking about when he was in Skylanders? He looked very
yes,
ugly.
probably
He looked
I'm
horrific
thinking
in
of that.
Skylanders.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this is a... People love Spyro. They're putting it on everything, which makes sense. That's going to sell a mountain on Switch too. And it's Activision, Toys for Bob, like Activision, they're dipping in their bag a bit other than the Call of Duty stuff.
Games like that are where the acquisition, I think, is fabulous because Activision would never have made this. They would never have greenlit this. So I'm absolutely ecstatic about that. I was saying earlier when we were watching, like, I would have rather this was Banjo, but I always preferred Spyro to Crash. Oh, yeah. And Spyro feels like a more natural fit for an open worldy thing, which is what this looks like it is. Flying around, stuff like that. Maybe they can get some Tears of the Kingdom vibes in there or whatever. And it looks really nice, so yeah.
I think Activision's next step, and they're doing this with one very significant one, is to try and bring back some more of that licensed stuff. Like make new versions of those licensed games. The one that everyone's absolutely desperate for is happening. So I think that is the stuff they can trade on. Like everyone always goes, oh, we need a new Hulk Ultimate Destruction, and all those kind of like mid games they published back then.
Prototype.
Prototype. Shout out Alex Mercer.
Microsoft could make a new Blast Corps. You want a destruction-based game? They could make that if they wanted to.
Like putting that kind of stuff up, a new Tony Hawk game, perchance.
Does Spyro like? We just talk mad shit about old franchises and people growing up and like people owning it now. Like, do you think what is it about Spyro that makes you think like? So the audience today can feel the nostalgia, but also feel like it's theirs and they want to invest in it.
I think good characters are relatively good kids' characters are relatively bulletproof.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think Spyro's a good. He looks cool. He's got the right. And so you just need good. Like I could see my kid liking Spyro.
Yeah. See, for me, I think this is a play to get a Spyro movie done, like in the same Sonic way. Like it feels massively like that's where they're going.
I think Microsoft. Well, it's actually. Let's talk about this thing, right? So I went to you. Were you there, Sam?
Where?
At the Xbox thing last night.
Yesterday, briefly, yeah.
So, I saw you. Yeah. But John, you weren't there, but they had this Xbox mixer thing. Basically like a drink reception party, very much like an off the record event, and like so there were influencers there. From the Xbox world, there was media there were people there, studio heads and stuff from the Xbox studios, Asher and Matt and these people were there. Anyway, it was a nice night. You get to chat to some people, you get a bit of an idea of what they're thinking. They're not telling you what they're announcing, but you can have a conversation with people and go, are you excited for tomorrow? What do you think about XYZ?
Yeah, and they get to hear where you think they are.
Yeah.
Which is the main reason they do that stuff.
Yeah, these things are important. Like, I think there can often be an internet overreaction to go, it's immoral or corrupt to go to these things, but actually it helps conversations which help us to get coverage and help them to understand maybe what's working and what isn't. Anyway, all the stuff at the end they had, like, they were giving people stuff like baseball caps and things like that,
pajamas.
I'm looking to see if there's one here, but I can't see it. But they all said Xbox Film and TV on them, all of it. And so I was like, that's really interesting. Obviously they've got the Call of Duty film coming. But you have to imagine they're looking at their portfolio and they're going, is there a TV show in Banjo-Kazooie? Or in Spyro? Or in Crash? I feel like there almost was a Crash cartoon at some point.
You might be right.
So they've got to be looking at all of that. Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. The thing is, like, Spyro makes a lot of sense because, not being rude, but like you can put out a mostly pish kids movie or TV show and the kids don't know the difference.
I mean, Chris Strong doesn't know the difference. He loves those Mario movies. Exactly. So.
Like the quality expectation and bar doesn't need to be super high for kids, and like that is a great way to get that initiative off the ground, if you know what I mean. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they're going. And before you know it, there was a Skylanders show, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. That's why I was going to bring that up. Spyro is actually not just for like 30-year-old heads. There's also a mid-generation of nostalgia from the Skylanders era, which I think is why a smart one to bring back.
And
wasn't Scullion obsessed with that shit for
I think he was. My favourite memory of all that is like every year at E3, they would have an exclusive Skylanders figure. And so you would have shameless people booking in to go and see that, to get their exclusive Skylanders figure, because your exclusive chrome plated Spyro would be, ridiculously expensive on eBay. Of course, it's all now worthless. But anyway, I think Spyro makes sense because he was always a chatty, fun character as well. But to what you just said, it's quite rare you get IPs that manage to do that generational thing.
True.
Yeah. Sonic is one that has successfully done it. Nintendo are masters at it. Like, they're about to create a new generation of Star Fox people.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite a rare skill and quite a rare. So if Microsoft can accomplish that with Spyro, and I hope they're able to accomplish it maybe with some rare IP down the line.
No one does more PR for Rare than this podcast. We're just always talking about bringing it back. But yeah, I think the Spyro, is a smart one to bring back. Excited to see more of that. And I think the next major one I want to talk about, Persona. They showed a release date trailer for 4, which is early next year, as with every other game. February's the new September, people are saying. A lot of people are saying, but
many people are saying
Persona, you'll never see it coming. They showed a very short logo trailer for Persona 6. Alex Donaldson, with dollar signs in your eyes. When do you think this RPG will see more from? There was scuttlebutt that this is actually way further along than people think, and it's not that far away.
My belief is that it's way further along.
It's been 10 years since 5.
It was a PlayStation 5 is a PlayStation 3 game.
And you have to remember an element of it was when they announced. Obviously, we had Metaphor in the middle, but when they announced Metaphor, they did Famitsu interviews and stuff. And in those interviews, they were like, "Well, the thing is, this is." Hoshino and the old experience heads are doing this new game because they want to try something new. But we've got younger guys incubating and working on Persona. Yeah. So I assume that this was also, in ongoing production all the while that Metaphor was in production as well. But I'm excited because Metaphor was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. In many ways, Metaphor could have been Game of the Year that year, I feel. And... it had 4 just looks really nice, fine. 4's my favourite one. Obviously, there's some story stuff in that game that maybe flies a little bit less in 2026, 27. So I'll be interested to see how any of that's changed, if at all, or if it isn't. But as far as 6 goes, I'm surprised how little they showed. But from the trailer, it was quite a spooky vibe. Quite a goth, sort of.
They had multifaceted images of all different faces and mouths and stuff like that, and it looked a bit kind of horror murder mystery situation. It's green, as we said on the podcast last night. It is the green one, which is very exciting. But yeah, I think they will. Maybe you chuck 4 out, and then around 4 promotion, you announce a Persona 6 Direct.
I assume it will be at TGS. I can't imagine they get through Tokyo Game Show with this year. Because we don't know if it is further along.
I mean, the funny thing is, what counts for major news at TGS for an RPG is completely different from what we want. They'll show a picture of the protagonist, and that will be it. And Japan will be on fire by the end of the day.
We'll be there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the rest of the world's like, all right, can you show us a game? What's going on?
Yeah. How does the job system work? But I thought that it's smart to get that out there. We said it on the podcast last night, but it stops the questions because it stops the entire Persona 4 cycle being so when you doing 6, and they can just go, well, we've shown 6, we're working on it, leave us alone. But Alex, is that a multi-team situation? Is there another team that is also doing a Metaphor follow-up, or is it just all Persona?
The thing is, people talk about this a lot with Capcom, with the different Resident Evil games. People talk about it with Square Enix a lot. Japanese development is usually quite fluid.
Yeah.
So whereas in we think about Naughty Dog and we're like, there's a intergalactic team and there's probably a Last of Us team or whatever, and we think of it in those terms. Most of the Japanese studios are much more like Capcom. It's not like there's a Resident Evil team that did 9 and then a Resident Evil team that are now doing Veronica, at least not in those codified terms. You've got the leads, but below that, people are moving around all over the place. So I do think probably after there was probably guys working on this in a smaller situation, and then after Metaphor shipped, a lot of people moved over.
Yeah.
And similarly, there's now probably a small team equally incubating a Metaphor 2. That's quite common in terms of how terms of how these studios tend to work. Square Enix is a little bit different. They do have more specific. There's the Kingdom Hearts team, but even then, you go and look at the credits. Loads of the Final Fantasies. When we get Kingdom Hearts 4, if you look at the credits, you're going to find a lot of people who worked on Final Fantasy 7 Remake, Rebirth, and Revelation in those credits, because in between those FF games, they were hopping in and helping. So it's. I don't think we'll get a sequel to Metaphor for ages, though.
Yeah. Other games, we spoke about it, but I think Clockwork Rev looks absolutely brilliant. It was a nice little tone piece. It was a good bit of gameplay, like funny characters. You were saying that you heard that it's like a hilarious game. The little bit of writing you saw was...
I've heard that people have told me that it's really funny. People have told me that it's got serious RPG chops. And I think, that's the sort of game where when Microsoft decided they were going to go down this path of all these acquisitions and becoming the biggest publisher in the world, that's the sort of portfolio game I want to see from them that might not necessarily have got greenlit before. Like, if you think about that studio, they're a studio that has been, for the most part, making smaller PC games. And this is them going, take that writing, take those design chops that you've got, and make us a big game. And they're doing it. And that's really exciting. And that's something that I don't think necessarily would have happened without the acquisition. So that's exciting. And they've committed to 27 as well, which is nice.
Yeah.
No date specifically, just 2027. Generally, they also announced the third Hellblade game, just called Senua.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
this time. That seems... I mean, the second game was about 20 minutes long, so I suppose it's not that surprising.
I'm very surprised
that trailer, it looked like there was quite a lot more gameplay.
Yeah.
In many ways, you could say there was more gameplay in that trailer than there was in the last game.
Yeah, it makes me think, like, retroactively, was the second game we got kind of a desperate, we need this now moment than, we thought it was, like more of that? Because I feel like, this is pretty quick for another Hellblade game. It looks more substantial than the last Hellblade game. So I do wonder if there was a time back then where they were like, we are in trouble, we need a game out there now, just whatever you have, top and tail it, get it out there. And
what I will say is it's astonishingly good looking as well.
Oh yeah, they always make
that's the thing, that again, I always wonder, like, those games can't do very well, like, but I always wonder if they just keep them around because their tech is ridiculous, and it's like there's definitely tech sharing across like several studios, so it makes sense for them to have that. It's also something that's like different in their portfolio. One thing you can't knock from Microsoft's portfolio is they have a ton of variety where Sony have absolutely none. So like, I think that's definitely something that they could learn.
This is the thing, like that whole thing of the cinematic Sony game. Microsoft is the dead set opposite of that.
Yeah.
You can't really, obviously some of the third party ones, a lot of gothic European looking stuff and things like that. But beyond that, you can't really point at that and say anything other than, that's a good amount of variety there. Like there's all sorts of stuff.
Like, there's clearly a moment last gen where, and I understand why they had this thinking, where they're like, we need to get our versions of this, we need to get our versions of the Sony games out here, but they went another direction, and Sony's reacting to that by, obviously there's a lot of chat about like bringing IP back, like doing a new Ape Escape, like things that will look visually different in a conference. Like, I thought it was interesting when Until Dawn 2 got announced. It's like, okay, this is something that they can hang out on. That's not, it's ironically still a very cinematic game, but not a third person behind the shoulder, like walking forward thing. That side of the industry is really all about. So yeah, I actually thought the variety here was great. Like, obviously we knew everything that was going to be there, but laid out in a conference like that, I thought the pacing was pretty solid. They always throw in little games, like little 30-second trailers for bits and pieces that catch your eye visually, that aren't just visceral violence, which was quite a lot of the show.
The funny thing about it is it despite the big news out of it being exclusivity related, it still doesn't feel like a traditional platform holder conference or showcase. It actually feels like it's just straight up flat out in competition and competition with Jeff's show. And that's interesting. And I wonder if they will, with the exclusivity stuff, gradually begin to move back towards feeling more like a platform show. Good that they had a few hits from Japan. I think that's if I'm concerned about anything with Xbox in a post-Phil world, it's that I know that Phil was like well liked in Japan. The developers and the publishers and the executives at the Japanese companies, who were the people who had the ultimate arbiter over whether games would go to Xbox, even though maybe the market share wasn't the best, really liked him. And I hope that the Asher regime is going to preserve those relationships. And seeing Persona, seeing Crazy Taxi, which I think looks great, by the way. I know there's a lot of anger at the minute about the Steam page went up and it says that they are using Gen AI.
Is this the dam breaking SGF where every game is just publicly saying that and it's too late?
Here's the thing. It's a cultural thing because in Japan, they literally do not care.
Pretty much all of Asia, in fact. Yeah.
And it's not like it's taken away art because Japan is very artist first. But they're like, if we can save time, why the hell wouldn't we save time? I understand people are upset about it, and it's a complicated... I don't know what the full answer is, but what I do know is if the attitude is I'm boycotting anything that's used it for ideation or anything like that, you ain't going to be left with many games to play. Yeah. So we've got to have a conversation as an industry and as a press or whatever about what actually we are saying is acceptable or unacceptable. I think I don't want to be looking at Gen AI art in the final game.
Yeah, no.
But
no.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap up there. Remember...
Before we finish... That magician game looks dope.
Oh yeah,
that
game looks awesome.
Yeah. The Devil's Deal, something like that. It was like a first-person kind of hands.
That
game.
looks cool. It looks like Bioshock magic stuff.
Bioshock, System Shock sort of vibes, and like the idea of a magic wand and a deck of cards
cool
as a replacement for guns in a first-person game is really cool.
I think that was the game that stuck with me most from that.
If you like a game about magic wands, or a whole series about magic wands, let me tell you about a little fella called Harry Potter.
Well, actually, you know, just to touch on this for a second, I sort of low-key expected we might get Hogwarts 2 this weekend, and we haven't, which maybe, if I had to guess now, that means it's probably a lock for the TGAs.
Yeah.
And actually, you think about it, the TV show, I think it premieres the week the TGAs happen.
Yeah. Oh, is it? That's Christmas? Okay. That game is, like, far along. Like, they went full obviously because it sold a bajillion copies, but that game is like, it might not be a next year game, but that could be a next year game very easily.
It comes with this conversation comes full circle, right? Because we were talking earlier about IPs that go multi-generational and selling to people that are more than just 30-year-olds. And it's like Harry Potter has been, obviously kids are reading the books still, and kids are getting inducted into the movies, but also that's been a franchise, whatever, you know, obviously there's all the problems with JK and stuff, but that's been a franchise that...
Jamiroquai? What's Jamiroquai then?
That's exactly it. It'd be so much better if he'd written it. Yeah. That's a franchise where it's been... The audience has been aging up. You go to Universal and you walk through the Harry Potter land or whatever, and it's all adults dressed in British school uniforms, which is sort of creepy. But obviously they are now going to be having this major reset where they're going to be trying to bring a new generation of 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds into it.
Do you know what's interesting? My little cousin, she's super into Harry Potter, and her induction was watching YouTubers play Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh, that's wild!
And that is Harry Potter to her, is Hogwarts Legacy.
Well, it's so ingrained in culture. So my child went to a sports. She goes to like a sports play day thing, and they play different sports. So sometimes she comes back and goes, "I've played American football today." You know,
you're like that. Finally, support the Rams.
Yeah, I was very pleased that day. But the other week she came back and went, "I played Quidditch today," and I was like, "Oh."
Get out of my house right now.
Well, I did think, I was like, some people will be really, you know, you're going to have parents who are really unhappy about that.
Yeah.
But it shows how ingrained it is in the culture, right?
I think TGAs is a...
Yeah.
But actually, just before we finish, right, because we're almost at the end of the show, right? Maybe there's a Nintendo Direct. Everyone's talking like there is one. Everyone's talking like there is one on Tuesday, but they're running out of time to announce it. But aside from that, was there anything that you guys thought might be here that then wasn't?
Maybe like a week ago before I found out what was actually here.
Yeah, forget any briefing we had or any background.
I thought they would maybe do one logo no date for something that was like super far away, just as like a
Microsoft.
Yeah, because they're like dangle the carrot, because this was a really good show for here's everything on the deck, we're getting it out. We've had a lot of games that have needed to get out here for a long time, but I'm trying to do the Rolodex of IP and what that could be, and I'm kind of coming up short.
I've got one that I'm surprised wasn't here because it's a key studio for them. And I do think it could show up at the TGAs, and also it makes a lot of sense if they want to create some sort of parity with Sony and PlayStation, which is Blade. Like I thought that should have popped up, like because they had Wolverine at Sony and PlayStation, and Blade is there. For all intents and purposes, Arcane is Insomniac for Microsoft. So I'm surprised that they didn't.
It
at
makes
least
me
provide
wonder,
some
is
sort
that
of
game in a bit of...
I was just
It's
thinking
like the
that.
curse of Blade. They can't get the movie off the ground either.
No, man.
Now that I've actually thought, I initially thought we might see Fallout 3 here, but that didn't transpire. I also thought we might get Wolf 3 here.
A quiet one from Bethesda in general.
I feel like Fallout is a TGA's thing because the audience of that is now not just like RPG nerds, it's TV people, and TGA's gets way more mainstream play than
especially if they come out and go, here's season 3 of the TV show, and speaking of 3, and then they do the trailer, but obviously they dropped with the Oblivion thing. It was like on a Monday. Here it is. I mean,
I respect that
leaked to shit anyway, but it was like on a Monday okay, we're doing a live stream tomorrow, and then it's out the next day. Like, but Fallout's way bigger than that. So
I respect that. I wonder how much more announcements in general, not just Microsoft, just in general, we've got for the rest of the year. Because you look now, September is a shit show. February also, because those are the 2 months that people are doing either side of GTA. Because nobody wants to do obviously GTA in November. Nobody wants to be within 1 month either side of GTA. Nobody wants to release in January. So everyone's in September or Feb. So I wonder if there's much more, or are we just going to see for the rest of the year updates on games like Persona?
Where do you think Ocarina is going to release?
Well, all those rumors say it's going to be this year, right? So
Tuesday, Nintendo Direct.
Is that September? They dropped the Ocarina remake.
Being honest, I mean, I think it all depends on one question, which is an unknown. It's unlikely, but is GTA going to ship on Switch 2? I don't think it's impossible. If they're going to ship on Series S, which they are, I don't think it's impossible. The profile between those two games, between the S and the Switch 2, it's different, but it's not that different. No. And so what I'm saying is this, if GTA is on Switch 2, Nintendo usually release a game a month, every month. I could see them having a month off in November, except for maybe a remaster, if GTA is coming. But if I'm Nintendo and I know I don't have GTA, maybe you just actually put a fucking banger in November,
I feel
and maybe
like
you do Zelda.
This sounds like blasphemy. I feel like the one game that could potentially divert some attention away from GTA is Ocarina.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the few games in existence in all time that could probably pull that off.
There's also, you're Nintendo, so you all your games you don't discount them. And they all have a super long tail anyway, so if people buy it 6 months later, who cares?
Yeah, I could see that. We'll find out on Tuesday, I suppose. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching and listening. You can check out multiple podcasts throughout the weekend. This is the third show we've done. Head over to patreon.com/videogameschronicle. If you want to see Chris String's fancy jacket, we recorded a little video where he was doing a pose and walked into someone in the hotel just before the Xbox show, so go and check that out. And while you're over there, if you join for the first month, you can get 20% off with FGF26 any month. If you go to the Insider tier or above, you'll get a code from Kepler Interactive. We're going to hit and run out of here. Until next time, say goodbye, Alex.
Goodbye, Alex.
Say goodbye, Tam.
Bye.
And we'll see you tonight with Jason Schreier and even more people if Jason's not too big for us. See you next time. VGC is supported by Patreon. Check out patreon.com/videogameschronicle for more podcasts, ad-free browsing, and extra content. Thank you for your support.